Good evening, folks, and welcome to Dice&Decks Presents, our first sit-down interview live with Dawnforgedcast himself, Andrew Armstrong. On the call tonight are my co-host Joe and just Andrew. This is our first special event. Joe, I'll pass it over to you and Andrew, if you guys want to, introduce yourselves and kind of explain what we're doing here.
Sure. Uh, just real excited to have Andrew on our show, and I know we got us set up with Twitch and YouTube, so we're gonna have some questions that we have prepared, and Andrew's gonna go and tackle those. He's been on our show once before, and we appreciated the time that he shared with us last week, I believe it was. And he did our grilling session already, and he passed, and he's all seasoned up, so we don't have to do that this time. We can just jump right into all of the other questions that we've had stored up for the last like 3 or 4 weeks. But yeah, Andrew, just a real pleasure to have you on, and just want to welcome you to our channel, and thank you for taking the time out with us, and just really appreciate you spending your time with us.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Happy to be on talking about gaming.
And that's really where all of this had started. Brendan and I have been playing D&D 3.5 for the last couple of years, and there was some time where I was wanting to improve as a player, and I figured the internet would have some good advice on how to be a better player and how to be a better gamer. And actually, that's where I found your channel, Andrew. It was when I was kind of lost with my ranger. I had been playing a ranger, and there was another guy who joined our play group, and he was playing very maxed out ranged cleric, and I'm thinking in my head, like, how am I going to compete with that? I don't know what to do, because I was still relatively new and learning the game. And so I just Googled up, YouTube videos on how to be a better player, and I spent several hours and days watching a lot of your your advice columns and all the things that you posted out for the community. So I really want to thank you for having that available for me personally, but just for the community in general. And it's something I really appreciated you taking the time to do. So I really thank you for that.
Well, it's good to hear. I definitely wouldn't be doing videos if people weren't watching them and getting something from them. As we were talking before the stream, it can be tedious and laborious to be editing and doing all this stuff and intro and outro and making sure all the fade in works right and having pictures and text. And it's very much worth it when I get a comment of, "Oh, thank you so much. This really helped my game," or this made me more confident to go and play with my group. We had a great session last night. Thanks so much for your ideas. Sold. I'll sit in the room and fiddle with some editing for hours for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if Brennan will agree with my assessment of making me a better player, because I'm sure it's made his life more difficult as a DM, but I appreciate it. I really actually the one that I spent the most time with was all your information on playing a cleric, because I'm playing an evil cleric now, and how you just bash the idea, not bash the idea, but you gave the suggestion that they shouldn't just be a heal bot. You spent it was like a half-hour video, and I watched the whole thing. I think I watched it twice actually, just going over all the different things that you have as far as the options, and really just getting down to the nitty-gritty of all the other things that you can do, whether it's support or damage, or just being able to diversify what you've got at your fingertips. And I think that's really awesome.
It's one of my goals and missions to really showcase the variety and the options and expand the perception of the game, that it's not simply a combat simulator, though there are some who play it that way, and fine. But I think there's a lot more to it, where you don't look at it and say, what's my absolute optimum best? Everyone has a very specific role. They have to play it every time. I need you to be my healer because I'm going to be the superstar. And no, it's a group game. It's cooperative. It's together. It's imaginative. It's storytelling. It's a great time as a group. And that's definitely a very important message to share for me.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I got across. I felt like was transferred in all of the videos that you do, and you just want to make sure that everybody's a part of it, not just singling out one person or one person's play style. Make it a team effort. Make it something that everybody can get in, and just have a good time with it. And I think that's something that I try to do at the table, as well as what we're doing here. the whole join the conversation thing is just getting people involved and having people be part of the conversation, really, no matter what it is. Brennan, I don't know if you wanted to jump in on anything. I know you're working on the technical specifications here tonight. I don't know if you had any early comments that you wanted to go for.
No, not really. I'm just trying to figure out why it wasn't working. And I apologize thoroughly for those watching on Twitch and can be checking out on YouTube. Yeah, I don't intend to have technical difficulties. Unfortunately, sometimes they happen, and we just kind of have to roll with the punches. Why don't you go ahead and ask the first question, Joe, that you have prepared for Andrew, and then we'll just keep going from there. And then we'll take some questions from the Twitch stream as well.
All right, sounds good to me. So, Andrew, I know you have a lot more experience in all of this than we do, and especially myself. And so I just want to get some of your insight on some things that me personally, I've been curious about. And so I guess I'm going to start kind of at the beginning, because I started watching your initial what was it, the Monday Night Gaming, or so Monday Night Gaming, I think is what it was when we first posted. I started there. I started watching all the different seasons. So first question I really have for you is, what has it been like going from your normal job as a teacher, you're doing that day in and day out, and then now someone that provides video content for basically the world, and what sort of difficulties did you face? And if you had any advice that you could provide for fledgling video channels, maybe such as ourselves.
Sure. Well, it did not begin as an effort to make a YouTube channel. I started off just putting videos online for my own benefit, recording my student teaching. And then the first one of it, I did some StarCraft 2 commentaries and just sort of feeling out, what is this thing? Could I use it for anything? And I had no concept of the world idea of it. And so eventually I decided to film our tabletop gaming session. We were already 12 sessions into the campaign, so it was just, I'd probably heard recently someone saying something about D&D being demonic or something like that. I said, I've heard this enough times. I want to record our session and show them it's not demonic. It's fun, and it's silly, and it's innocent, and it's fantastic. So I recorded that, and with a little flip cam, bad quality, bad sounds, all of that. We were only able to record up to 45 minutes at a time before the thing was full. No lighting, nothing. So I put that online and didn't think anything of it. Just called it Monday Night Gaming because that's when we played, and that was good enough. And then people started leaving comments and asking questions about, what does this mean? Or how do I learn how to play? Or when we do this, what is a 5-foot move? And all these sort of questions. And I'd be answering them in the comments, this is kind of neat. But I kept getting similar questions, and I'd say, well, why don't I just make a video, and that will help answer these questions, and then I won't have to keep answering them. And one video led to the next, and at one point, I was sort of looking at the subscriber numbers and the YouTube ad revenue coming in from it, and I thought, is this a job? I spend a lot of time with this. I'm getting paid for this. And I really enjoy it. Could I do this thing? Like right now, I'm teaching, and I like teaching, but it was never my full dream job. I can teach my favorite hobby and do that full time. Is that a possibility? And over time, it's becoming that kind of a possibility. So one of the things when I first realized that I kind of determined for myself was organization, consistency, and quality. And lastly, passion, if I've got to do sort of bullet points. When I first was able to put thumbnails on my channel, that was, whoa, what an amazing day. I love that. And I could go put in DM basics and is it legit thumbnails. And I went through all that, about 100 or so videos, and I was plugging them in and so excited about getting this visual aspect to my channel, to organize it so people could find the videos more easily. I put them all in playlists. I had links from one thing to another. It was really about keeping organized for myself, and I didn't really think too much on the search net optimization and whatnot. Eventually, I learned more about those things, but I worked on getting better quality equipment, setting up a place. Eventually, it shifted so that I wasn't recording in my bed with my bed in the background and whatnot, to set up a specific location for that, to use lighting, and it gets hot just sitting under this big light over here, but it improves the visual quality. Adding graphics, adding pictures and text. I remember the day I got Sony Vegas and I could do video and video. That was so exciting because I was using Windows Movie Maker before that, which is not very many features. So I first got my picture and I'm talking there, and I remember this exactly. If you've ever played a game like this, and I point up and then the little thing appears, and that was such a thrilling moment for me. So keeping the quality and improving it, investing. When I started seeing it like a business, that means that you invest back into it. And the ad revenue that came in, I put it for a new microphone, a new camera, and really to put it back in, started giving away books and establishing a sense of community that was already kind of growing in the comments. Then the idea of consistency. Is having a schedule, a video schedule for the week, so that viewers could come and they would know on Monday you've got live gaming, on Tuesday is some DM related thing, maybe today was a puzzle, maybe it's DM tips, maybe it's an encounter, monster guides, whatnot. Wednesday is sort of a reflection video, a game log, or some miscellaneous whatnot. Thursday is devoted to the player, and you have series on how to play this class, tips for being a good player, be a better player in general, how to role play a little more, how to do voices and accents. And Friday was now devoted to kind of cultural, world building kind of stuff. Things kept growing. You can expect Ask a DM on Saturdays, live gaming on Saturday nights usually. Sunday, the only day I kind of have off but has still uploading. So that consistency was good for me, to realize that every day there's something expected of me tomorrow, even if it's 50 people or 5 people or 5,000 people. That held me accountable and really is a strong motivating factor to get that done. I would love to come home after work. We got home at 5 today. This interview started at 6:30. So we got home, ate dinner, we're watching Parks and Rec, my wife and I, and very much enjoying the show. And then after we watch that, I come and I edit the video for tomorrow, or I record it if I need to. Consistency, really treating it like I'd rather go and play a video game on the couch or go for a walk or watch a movie, but this is important to me. And so I have to make the time for it. And then lastly, passion. To be really excited about it meant that I needed to keep playing. So I needed to be a player. I needed to be a game master. That was always essential to the channel idea. Not only because we started off with Monday Night Gaming and our live plays, but because that's where it all matters. You can sit on your chair and talk about gaming all you want and give your tips and advice. But if we don't get to see that game, if we don't get to see it implemented, I really don't have a lot of confidence in other people who talk, but we never get to see them. And it is a challenging thing to set up in that recording for sure. But that to me is just resonates strongly with me. I got to be playing and I got to be fired up about this. And I do get fired up about sharing it with people. One of my most popular series is Pathfinder Basics, where I teach my wife how to play Pathfinder. And that was really exciting for me because she knew nothing about it at all. And I was dating her at the time, so I had committed to she's going to know I'm a nerd straight up from the very first kind of get-go. And so teaching her that, being really excited about it, and holding myself up to a high standard. If I make a video and it's kind of either bad quality or I'm not really into it, it's scrapped. Even if it was 30 minutes long, if it doesn't have that passion, that love for the game, the excitement of coming up with a really cool idea, or the thrill at the end of a good session, keeping that involved is essential. So my advice to fledgling channels would really be, consider those things. If you're just doing this for fun, do it. Do it when you enjoy it. Do it when you're really excited about something. But if you're really wanting to make this a serious go, you gotta treat it like work. You gotta treat it like a job, and do all those things, kind of what I listed. You will run into some difficulties. That other question you asked. Some of my difficulties have been, of course, scheduling, finding time for it, pushing myself to up my quality, to up my game, my interactions, social networking, being available for people, and working with, trying to include other channels and getting them involved in community building. There's so much drama whenever humans get together, and so that's definitely been a difficulty in the past, even sometimes now, not so much, thankfully, of kind of working things out. Other people have different opinions, and they might not like some things that I do. I might not like things they do. So that can end up being conflicting, and I ultimately learned, let's just not bother with that. And so I steer away from drama and negativity now. I put that out of my mind, and the difficulties are really now just between me and where I could be, and just pushing myself to do that, keeping on the schedule, keeping organized. Now I've got Patreon aspects of incorporating live chats with them, running games for them, games every week. And then it's really just, you start juggling a couple things, and you add some more in when you feel more confident. And that can be really tiring, but ultimately it's very, very rewarding. I get a huge satisfaction from positive comments, from messages. I have a whole folder in my email, just messages from people thanking me, even some really touching ones. You gave me the confidence to ask the girl to prom. Your video about gamer confidence. Who'd have thunk? You helped me through a really tough time in my life when I was really depressed, and watching your videos made me really, the passion for the hobby got me back into it and helped me out, and that's incredibly rewarding. The satisfaction of a job well done. When I finish a video that was really well edited, and I got all the transitions right and all the graphics right, and I see the view count, it's like people are liking this. I'm not tied to that, but that's rewarding, certainly. And then the idea that I'm maybe doing this as my full-time job. I'm not there yet, but we're closer than ever, and it's growing and growing and growing, and the excitement of being your own boss. That if I want to get more, if I want to grow, I can do it. It's all on me. It's fail or fly just on my shoulders, and that's terrifying, but also really liberating, because many jobs that are salaried, like my teaching job, I value education. I really enjoy teaching, but if I work super hard, or if I just do enough to get by, my pay doesn't change. The incentive doesn't change. Whereas if I really work hard to get good videos out, and have chats every week, and do all those things, I can see the growth. It's physically there, well, digitally there, to understand it, and to see it there. It's growing. We're almost at 30,000 subscribers, which is, 1,000 was mind-blowing. That many people are coming and valuing what I'm doing. It's fantastic. That would be my answer. It's a three-parter question.
Yeah.
Hopefully I hit it all.
You did, and it's awesome. And the biggest thing for me that I recognize from everything that you do, it really is the passion and the appreciation that you have for not just the community but the education side of it and teaching other people. I feel like I can really tell that that really drives you, and I think that's awesome. And I said in the last time you were with us that I come from a family of teachers, and that sort of resonates with me just because I think it's something that's really important to share and to teach other people how to not just be better gamers but be better people. I think that's awesome. Okay, so that was awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time and like sharing all that stuff with us. It's just really great having you. So you touched on a few things that I also had some other follow-up questions, I guess, with that. One of the just real short ones is, did when you first started, made the decision, hey, I want to record this, our home session, did you have a difficult time convincing your players to do this? Did you have to have a conversation with them to say, hey, I want to put this online. How do you feel about that? How did that kind of thing happen?
They they weren't really opposed to the idea, at least that initial group. We're all kind of younger-ish, mid-20s when we were recording that stuff. And the idea of being online was definitely kind of not a fearful or daunting thing for our group. We've already, there's so much social media and networking. It's kind of that connectivity. It didn't put us off too much. There was some kind of difficulty and I would say general annoyance with passing the camera around and having it handheld. And so I kind of made a decision early on, even though that would be more immersive for the viewers, that my focus was on the players and their enjoyment. So we ended up getting a tripod, sticking it far back. It sounds not as great. The quality is not as great, but that's super important to me that my game goes well. And maybe we'll work our way up to getting a camera person and being able to do that. But convincing them was not too much of a difficult challenge. And usually, for the people who come on and I do hangouts or Skype streams or whatnot with them, I do ask them beforehand if they're comfortable being recorded and going online. And I don't think no one has said that they're against it. Some said they didn't want to be on camera, but they could do the voice. But I think people pretty well come to recognize what I'm here for and what's expected when you play with me, kind of a thing. And I value a lot the visual side of things, seeing the gestures and the facial expressions when you're role playing. That's really important to me. And I don't think that we should be too worried about people judging. Well, I don't. We're all nerds here. It doesn't matter. We all don't care. That's one of the beautiful things that being as part of this kind of subculture was really showing me, in that I really learned. In high school, I was all over the place in different groups and cliques. Didn't really fit into one. But one of the things that was really great about this gaming is it shouldn't. There's exceptions, but it didn't really matter what you looked like. How did you game? Were you an annoying gamer? Were you really fun and friendly to play with? Did you come up with good ideas? Would you tell the story well? Your looks, your gender, your whatever, irrelevant. I don't care what you do out of the game for the most part. What do you bring to the table? So that was really the core thing, not your looks or anything like that. And getting on camera, to me, ultimately, it's only a disservice to yourself to not get involved to that level and degree. No one's judging you. If they are, just delete the comment. Who cares? It's always going to be naysayers.
Yeah.
So no issues getting them on for the most part.
Awesome. Piggyback off that a little bit, and obviously doing everything you've been doing online now. What do you feel the internet, in particular the video and voice conferencing, has done to help your personal gaming as well as gaming in general as a broader community question?
It's definitely opened up a lot of possibilities for more games to be played, more gamers to connect together. I have to say still that my first experience and my still favorite experience is sitting all around the same table together, in person. On our last session, I made quesadillas for everyone. Just a fun. We got food, we got fellowship, and we're there together in the flesh. You're getting body language. You're not so much dealing with the lag that comes in that can definitely hamper internet communication. But I have had a great number of games that have been played online, and one of the difficulties and challenges has been the digital tabletop side, figuring that out. To me, it's a little daunting. Well, I know how to draw, enough. Then I got my whiteboard. I can just draw out my holding game, and bam, whatever I want to come up with, I can put it there right away. But using a pre-created like Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or Revolution Virtual Play, we got that thing coming in here too. Those require sort of prep to really be able to recreate the thing you would do at home that I could do on the fly. But then they can transcend that in a lot of ways with the level of graphics and the level of detail. So playing online has that aspect, and I've just ended up using MS Paint. It's like the same thing as the digital the home whiteboard to me, and that's been really good or good enough. And my real focus has been on the role playing and storytelling, and I think that's also really a strong selling point for playing online. Is if you exclude the digital tabletop kind of side of things, if you exclude the grids, then it's really very much about you're a little more comfortable in your chair and your home. You don't have to go anywhere to set these up, so they can be done more often, and you can maybe feel a little more comfortable, a little more relaxed. Not for everyone. Some people are more nervous online, but you can get into the spirit of it, I think, sometimes a little better for some people. So I've definitely seen a lot of great games. There's a lot of not great games, but there's a lot of people just playing. So if you're really wanting to use games on your channel, you might want to be a little discerning about not just putting everything up. Just because you play something doesn't mean that it's worthy of everyone else watching for the most part. But I'm been very pleased with the ability to just connect with anyone. I get asked pretty frequently, I can't find a gaming group. No one in my town plays, or those kind of things. And I'm skeptical about that. Everywhere I've lived, I've found and put together a gaming group. And I've lived in different cities and even different states. And I made it happen because I wanted it. And it's like, we're going to play. I'm going to play with a home group. That's going to happen. There may be some people who truly there's zero gamers in their town. But I think most of the time it can be a little bit of laziness or fear that stops you from going to that gaming store, going to the library, putting something up. So it can be a crutch in some cases of just deciding to do it online because it's easiest for you. But there can still be a lot of great gaming that comes from it. And I've seen that firsthand.
Awesome. So the I do, Brennan. Thank you. So the follow-up I have here, you mentioned it in the answer with our online game options. The new program that we've actually been able to work with is Revolution Virtual Play Space, and I know Roll20 has been out there for a long time. You're using MS Paint. Yes, there is prep work that goes along with it, but do you feel that something like that, where you have the ability to build a dungeon and immerse people into it, is that something that, with the community support, you would be able to utilize in a gaming session? And do you think that could have a potential impact on online gaming in the future?
Right now, I'm split on it because I haven't really dabbled in it at all. So now, I guess because of the channel's popularity or whatever, I'm getting emails from different companies and groups saying, please sample our product, please try our stuff. Here's a demo of it. Here's a press version. I've got sound effects that can be added to games and all these digital tabletops too. So I have on my desktop now Revolution and Fantasy Grounds and Epic Table is the name of the other one. And I've looked in each of them just a little bit, but it's initially kind of off-putting to. I went into the Revolution and this big body of water, and I started putting like little grids there. I'm like, okay, this is neat. And then I wanted to put a grid that went up a little bit. I'm like, okay. And I wanted to put a doorway, but it wouldn't click. And I was like, I can't do what I want it to do right away. So it really does require a lot of initial investment, which can be, again, off-putting. And I'm definitely very happy to play in it, for sure. And then just if I had more time and maybe some mentorship, be able to utilize it more. But I think you enter a dangerous realm, or at least to me, a dangerous realm, of getting to the point where, well, why don't you just play a video game at this point? They can do it. The graphics are going to be better. It is true you won't have the freedom that a tabletop game affords, but you won't have that freedom when you've got pre-created stuff either. You couldn't, quite as much. So if I'm looking for a real strong gaming experience that has graphical fidelity, I'm probably going to play a video game for that. For me, the tabletop role playing is not about the graphics. It's not about a lot of people do construction, kind of building sets and tiles and all those things. And I look at them and I think, wow, that's really cool looking. That'd be neat to play in. I will never do that because, wow, that's such a huge amount of work. And I've done it a little bit here and there, but I really do. I wouldn't say admire, but I would say, like, that's a great job. That's really neat that you're able to do that. But it's not really been that way for me because my focus is not on that aspect of it. For me, the flexibility of imagination is really where I try and sell it. So I work on my descriptive skills and being able to really set the scene and give appropriate details. And the focus isn't for me also on tactical combat so much that I don't really need it quite as much. But I guess it's about my free time, and I definitely will be looking into these programs when I get a breath to do that. And I saw your most recent session, and you were using it, and you were in some sort of underground place, and there's like little bubbles of purplish black energy things, and guys moving around, and then you're at the campfire with snow coming down. I thought, ooh, they got snow in there. That's pretty cool. But I could also, for me, I like tell don't show in tabletop gaming, because if I'm showing, then that's the only version that can exist, and I will never be able to create it using one of these things as well as I can describe it, because it just doesn't have the properties to go into that level of detail. But maybe I'd be happy to learn it more and to integrate it. I'm having to use it for our Reign of Winter Pathfinder game, and I'm using Roll20 for that. And thankfully my players are able to help me out with it, and I was able to find a bunch of maps online already for it. But when it gets to the point where I'll have to start making my own, it's really just a matter of time, and because I like to rely on my improvisation skills to fill in the gaps in my planning. I plan to improv, and with a tabletop, digital tabletop, that kind of limits me in that I need it ahead of time, and I don't always have the time to do it. So to answer your question, interested, happy to learn, just don't have the time right now to really invest in it.
Yeah, and that's something that I know that they are really working on with Revolution. having the community file uploads where people can build a map, upload it so other people can utilize it. And if you get enough community support with that, some of that prep work is mitigated, and you're able to jump into things a lot more quickly, which I think is awesome. But when we get things set up and you want to come back and play with us in Brendan's World of Phalor, we're using the Revolution, and we'll let you know, and you can roll up a character, and we'll have some fun with it.
Yeah, I like that for any new system or program, to have someone who already knows it well come on and sort of introduce me to it. I've got enough going on that I can't. I've got books back here that I've looked at, but I don't even. I wish I could learn them, but it's just a matter of time.
Sounds good. All right, Brennan. I know you had to follow up some question on this one, so go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of already alluded to it a little bit, Joe. You said that you would be interested in, playing it, so I was going to put out the offer to you to do exactly that. I know you have things going on a lot of nights of the week, so we can talk about that more, on Facebook or via email as needed. But we'd love to have you in on a session so you can test it out and see what it is, and of course, remind everybody that once we're done playing in a specific set piece and our videos are posted for it, we're going to be posting pretty much everything that we do, that we build, that we spend the time to create on the community file for the community on revolutionvirtualplayspace.com. So we also have a contest going on. So if anybody watching, is looking into the program as we're doing this broadcast, or as you're watching it on YouTube, you look it up afterwards. The contest will be live for about another week. We're actually giving away a product key for the program, so if you'd like to join us in playing as well, we'd love to have you for that. But that's kind of where I'll leave that. And then, David, I believe you said we had a question from the chat. If you'd like to jump in here and go ahead and read that to us.
Well, I had an individual question, but I'll save that one for later. It's number 6 on the list. Number 1 is from Dan, and it's your favorite race and class.
All right. That's for me or for everyone? Should I wait for it?
For you, Andrew.
Okay. The viewers should know that my favorite class, the go-to one, if I'm forced to say you have to pick a class, play it right now, I would make a dwarf paladin. Paladins are my favorite class. They've always been. I've always been drawn to it as my first class and first character. I like the chivalry. I like the party leader. I generally end up being a charismatic character and talking a lot, even when I shouldn't be, based on his stats and kind of backstory. I just end up, pushing the game along and getting more people involved. That's kind of been my mission very much, to promote the idea that everyone has a responsibility to get other players involved and to ask them questions in character, especially if they're sitting there not doing too much. So a paladin and a bard, those are kind of my two go-to classes that I really like playing and fit my personal style a lot. So bard and paladin are my favorites. And then I really enjoy the dwarven race. I like doing the accent, and I like the idea of stoicism paired with frivolity. They have like a big tradition and a long heritage, and dwarven traditions super important, and regulation, alongside going crazy at bars and fighting and all that stuff. Watching the Hobbit movies, they had their flaws, but one of the things I loved the most was the dwarvenness of they're at Bilbo's house and they're all partying and stuff, and Thorin comes and it's time for business. Let's get stupid drunk and then turn it off immediately when it's time to deal with the situation. So dwarves are probably my favorite race. Humans, I think, are also just fine. I generally am perfectly content with everything in the core books. The standard races and standard classes, I think there's more than enough there. I don't need to go be a half zombie, half drow, half dragon to really yay, I need to play something weird. That to me is not my shtick. Other people like it, sure. The other race, if I was going to go with it, it'd be a dwarf paladin and a half-elf bard, or full elf, but I like the half-elf kind of side. So those would be my go-to and my favorite class and race.
Excellent. David, I know we're trying to get the questions from YouTube and Twitch. Why don't you go ahead with the second one that you got on your list?
All right. The second one comes from Nate. What do you think about old school systems, specifically basic fantasy versus 5th edition?
Well, I have to say that my experience and my knowledge, I'm not a systems junkie. I prefer depth to breadth, and to me, I'd rather really, really, really know a system well than to know a little bit about lots of systems. And such to that end, my knowledge is really strong in Pathfinder, 3.5 Pathfinder, and 5th edition D&D, because I love fantasy the most, and I have experience in other systems, and I'm not opposed to them, but I don't really dabble. Thankfully, I have friends and viewers who dabble who can tell me about it. Ben, who has channel Questing Beast, he and I work together. We run the gaming club together, and he's always got some new system that I've never heard of that he wants to get us to play or introduce to us. He showed us Dungeon World and Burning Wheel and some other stuff I can't even remember their names. I'd never heard them. Free Market, and we had good experiences with them. He introduced us to Fate, and I had one experience with the old school style of gaming. I started off in 2nd edition with THACO. I was 14 and I was taught the game, and that's where I played it. But it didn't really become my own. And I played the Baldur's Gate series and Icewind Dale, and I really enjoyed those. But the system mechanics were never like, yes, I love calculating armor class backwards. I got a negative 57 armor class. It makes so much sense. That's never been my main focus. My ideas are, I got a great character. He's really cool. Look at his cool stuff. Look at all this cool stories he had. Getting that stuff. So I moved into 3rd, and I was like, thank you. This makes much more sense. Things go up, all in the same direction. So the idea of old school gaming in 5th edition, I don't have a lot to compare it to because I hadn't that experience from longer ago. I had a brief experience with Labyrinth Lord, which is my understanding was it's an old school clone, is what the term is, where you have it's based around dungeon crawl mostly. It's very lethal. You get XP for loot. You don't get XP for killing stuff. I was told that the session wasn't run exactly the way that old school was supposed to run, but I didn't really enjoy it. I thought there was a lot of mechanics that didn't make a lot of sense to me, or you try a door and you just have to roll a 6. If you don't roll a 6, you don't open the door. Like, there's no opportunities for creative thinking so much. So I can't answer exactly what that type of game fantasy basic is, because I tell my viewers, I'm not the systems guy. I'm here to get you to be passionate and fired up about the game, for you to know enough to do the basics, to improve your role playing, and to improve your interaction together. Cool ideas for settings and traps and puzzles and dungeons and plots and characters. That's what's here. If you're looking for numbers, I mentioned this in a previous stream. I'm looking for someone to come on the channel and be a full-time contributor as the systems guy, because that's not me. Even though people will ask me those questions. Well, my duelist, he took the feat at 13th level that has this, and this, and then it's kind of conflicting with this feat from Ultimate Combat. And I was wondering what you think. Should my base attack bonus be plus 17 here? And do I get a second attack? Is it iterative? And do I get to make an attack of opportunity if this triggers? I can show you how to role play a duelist, kind of a thing. But answering that stuff is just out of my league right now. It's, again, the time. And what I've liked about 5th edition a lot, and I mentioned this before, is the lack of rules. There's enough rules that things are covered and you have some parameter in your game. You have room to, all right, I know my borders are in this general area, but they're pretty far out. And then I've got flexibility, and so I'm really investing myself in learning the 5th edition thoroughly, which is not too hard to do because there's not too much. And then it opens up a lot of room for homebrew and developing your own concepts. And so I'm really growing to like 5th edition a lot, but I can't say anything about how it compares to previous editions, like
Well,
Fantasy Basic.
apparently we have a systems guy here in our call, so if you're looking for that person, David's gonna hook you up. So make sure you
Well,
talk to him afterwards.
it's not just systems guy. You got to be able to make good quality videos too, and so kind of integrating all that too. But yeah, we can definitely talk about that later.
Awesome. Awesome. Did you want me to ask any more questions from the chat, or did you guys have some?
I just have something real quick. Again, this is going to come from, and I don't remember the name of the video, Andrew, so don't hate me too much. But something that really resonated with me was one time when you talked about how you didn't play D&D or you didn't play Pathfinder. You played in a world that you created, and you use a rule set to determine the outcome of random events. And I think to me that really kind of hit home as far as what you can do with creativity and what you can do with problem solving and that kind of thing. Because it instead of sticking to that system or that rules, those rules, you can say, hey, we're going to play in this world, and then we happen to have some things off to the side that help us determine what happens. And I think that to me was a really kind of eye-opening way to look at it, and I really thought that really hit home for me. So it was really cool that I was able to see that. I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. That was awesome.
It goes along with my philosophy of we're here to have fun. We're not here to follow the rules. And whatever my priority is, people enjoying themselves. And I definitely don't see myself or the role of the game master as the rules arbiter. That his job is there to make sure the rules are being followed properly. I don't, and that's not my philosophy and view on it. So the idea of what system do you play, that somehow I have to pick one and play only that, or that when we started a world building series, and it's been fantastic, but some people occasionally ask, is this world for Pathfinder or D&D? And to me, it's a fantasy world. There's no system stuff here. Let's create a really cool world, and then you use it for whatever fantasy system you want. It can be a setting for Dungeon World. It can be a setting for Burning Wheel. It can be a setting for D&D 4th edition or Savage Worlds or whatever. It's the thing we're doing here that appeals to me most is telling a good story, and everyone feels like they're really contributing and having a great time. Now, some people have a great time by fidelity to the rules, and that's great. They generally won't enjoy my groups so much because I fudge the rules quite often for favor of a great, cool cinematic moment or sparing the death, the death in the middle of the dungeon to some trap off to the side because they rolled bad 4 times in a row. That to me is, I'm okay with people dying and getting hurt, totally fine, but it should have some significance. And I don't really play tabletop like a video game so much. Yeah, definitely the videos. I don't play Pathfinder. Was kind of the name of it, and to kind of I use Pathfinder to play tabletop role-playing games.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that was just awesome. So one more question for me, then we'll go back to some of the audience questions. So you bring a lot of content. You spend all this time working on the videos that you do, and you bring that to the role-playing community in many different ways. Do you have a favorite category that you like to talk about, whether it's the DM advice, player advice, world building, all the different things you do? Is there one category that you're always just really excited about, while other ones kind of take a little bit of a backseat?
Yeah, definitely the rules side of things and system mechanics takes a backseat generally. I was really excited about doing my class and race guides, and I was just tore through them. I produced them in a real fast pace because I liked them so much. And then when I got out of the core rulebook and the core races, my interest just plummeted because I don't have like experience or real passion about playing a Cavalier or a Magus, that's or doing a Snurfleblin. People ask, when are you going to do the video on the Snurfleblin? I don't care about Snurfleblins. They're fine, sure, but I don't have any kind of passion for that. So kind of off race and off class stuff, mechanics, I don't really have great passion for. I really like talking about adventure creation and coming up with ideas for those. I like teaching game master tips and player tips, really leaning towards not put this number here and this number here, but instead, how can you share the spotlight as a game master? How can you have a game run fluidly? How can you make your players feel more immersed in the world? How can you, as a player, involve other players? How can you deepen your role playing? How can you understand your character better? How can you develop the story? Those are what really excite me and that I'm really excited to share and talk about. And talking about alignments has certainly been a great thing because it's storytelling. It's not a system mechanic to punish people with. It's a way of helping you roleplay and tell your story. So really anything that is related to story, role-playing, and character interests me a lot more than anything related to picking a skill or a feat or the numbers or the builds. Those don't interest me quite so much. Though I'll do them because there's a market for it, people are interested, and you need at least enough to do the basics of it. So I have videos covering every class, just how do you create it. But you'll see that those videos are much longer than they would need to be just to cover the mechanics, because while we're making this tiefling warlock, I'm not just saying, all right, put your +2 here and your +3 here. All right, so she's actually at a wizarding academy, and she's been trying so hard to gain prestige and gain the attention of her mentors, but they're just not doing it. So she decides to turn to a darker power. And she kind of just uses a little bit at first, help her get through some tests, help her cheat. But ultimately it grows, and and that's not anything you can find on a paper thing. But that's why the class creation videos are usually like 45 minutes or an hour, because it's all filled with the character side as opposed to the numbers crunchiness. So that's where my favorite stuff comes in.
Excellent. Yeah, I have the same issue when I make a character. I always try to come up with at least, at the very least, some reason to adventure, some reason to be out in the world, and then other backstories that kind of go along with that. So I definitely try to do that up as best I can too. David, we're gonna go over to you. Oh, sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
I was just going to add that to me, the character gives context to the numbers. That when you're there in a combat and you're rolling dice and, ooh, I got a 17, or now I have an 8. You're just throwing out numbers, and they gain significance and depth and enjoyment when they are tied to a character that you care about. And why do you care about a character? You don't care about a character because the numbers say something. You care about them because they feel like a person. They are like a favorite character in a story you're reading. That you are taking on that role, and you get to play someone who's not you, or who is you and transformed into a much more heroic version or wicked version of you, or that kind of thing. So to me, if you have, I have a video called "Play a Character, Not a Gimmick." It's, you don't sit down and say, I want to play a two-handed or two-weapon fighter. That may be where you start, but if that's where it ends, you're like, how can I play a two-weapon fighter? I take the two-weapon fighting feat. No, I'll be a ranger, and then I get it free at level 2. I'm going to take weapon finesse, and then I'll have my dexterity be 13 points. And what you do? To me, it's like, okay, you're going to have that in place, but who is this character? Otherwise, you can just make 10 of those, make a bunch of copies, change the name to the second or the third, and then just go in and that gets, to me, very old and stale it's just rolling, but the character is the context. And so focusing on that makes all that number stuff you care. I hope I roll high, because if I don't roll high, my character, who's really invested in this situation, he's not going to be able to jump over the chasm and go and save the town mayor, who they've been working for so long. I'm glad I invested those points into this so I can accomplish this task, as opposed to, without the context. Where is it? So that was just, I want to add that too.
Nice, excellent. And you struck a chord with David, so he appreciates that too. David, we're going to go ahead and go to the audience again. Why don't you queue up some of your questions?
All right. The next question comes from Nate again. Have you ever inserted a wargaming rule set in the middle of a campaign in order to progress the story, such as warring factions?
Poor Nate. He's wanting something I can't really give him too much. I will say that I have done different themes, different thematic elements in campaigns where we will go from, as long as the story leads up to it. We've had one that led up to the characters becoming part of an army, and they were commanders in an army. And then we worked on a larger scale where instead of controlling their individual units, they were controlling groups of squads and those kind of things. And we didn't do exactly like take a system to do that. I just kind of made it up in part and used some of the rules for large scale combat. I have been interested in wargaming. There's another YouTube channel called Wargamer Gal, and her and I have talked a number of times, and she's been a supporter of the channel. It is interesting. You definitely remember from childhood lining up the little plastic army men, all along the thing. And my grandfather had this kind of exquisite collection of little cannons and guys with big hats and their rifles with the bayonets. And I always liked to position them and set up cool battles and that kind of stuff. But when it came to doing that later on in life, it was like really expensive to buy all those and paint all those, and I kind of just shifted away from that. To me, it felt more, I'll play StarCraft. That's enough. I'll play Age of Empires. I'll play these strategic games that have been, if I want to go that direction. So I didn't really integrate other system mechanics into the sessions quite so much, but I will incorporate different thematic elements from them in different moments. Shifting to kind of a vehicle section, like a race section, we can incorporate some rulings from other things like that. So again, it's a matter of not opposed to the idea, just don't have the experience or the time really to make that possible.
Cool. David, why don't you just queue up another one? I'm just going to go straight to you, quick fire, I guess, this way.
All right. Question number 4 comes from Dan. Functionally, what would you change about tabletop gaming?
That's a broad question. Just in general, like the whole hobby, I wonder.
It was pretty vague.
Yeah. Well, what would I change? If I could just have a, hover in the clouds and just bam, make the tabletop gaming different, it definitely would be cooperation. I would change everyone's attitude such that they come to the gaming group and they see it as a group, and they see group success as more important than personal success, or as personal success. They are there to work together, not against their allies, not against their friends. They are there to encourage each other, to support when someone else succeeds, they succeed. They cheer them on. They're happy for them. That they're not there to one-up them. They're not there to take advantage of them or put them down or manipulate them. They're not there DM versus the players. To me, if I could change anything about tabletop gaming, it would be the attitude of gamers to really say, this is our gaming group, and we are here to play together, to cooperate, and have a really great session where success as a group is the ultimate goal. And I'm not there to come in with my character build and to beat the game and do whatever I want. And you're all just kind of here on the sidelines as I try and get whatever I want out of the game and I kind of overwhelm it. I would want everyone to really focus on the game and the community sense of it. That's what I would do if I had superpower to make it all happen.
Yeah, it's something that we had a huge conversation about with our first week when we were doing our hangouts every day. That was a big question, was the power gamer versus the game, and having somebody come in and try to win the game kind of thing. And even with like an evil campaign, or even with playing a character that is selfish, you can still have the cooperative gameplay as a player and just present that character as being, this is something that he does on his own or whatever. I still think there's still great ways to do that to encourage that sort of community gameplay, even if you are playing characters that are maybe not focused or with the group, but by themselves.
You're getting people who come in. I want to play my drow assassin, and his mission is to assassinate all the nobles in the city, and they haven't consulted with the other the other players. They haven't checked with the game master. Is this the kind of game we all want to play? It's a solo lone wolf character. Why are you making someone for a group game that is trying to be the hero by themselves or the villain by themselves? That's really, like, people will ask me that sometimes, and I say, no, that's for you and maybe on a one-on-one session or one-on-two, or that's for your fan fiction, your short story, or a video game is fantastic. If you want to be that protagonist, do that there. This is a group game with multiple people. You need to be with them, and that's also why, to me, I really push towards good alignment and good alignment characters. I'm not opposed to neutral or even evil alignments if they're handled with the still spirit in mind that even if I'm wicked to some of the NPCs, even if I'm a little selfish in my goals and ends, I'm not going to do it to my party member. I might make fun of them or insult them in a minor way, but I'm not there to be, Lord Evil and everyone else, suck it kind of a thing. That's missing the whole purpose of it to me.
Yeah, absolutely. David, I know we still got at least a few more questions lined up there. Why don't you go ahead again? I'm enjoying these. They're fun.
All right. The next one comes from Ty. Are the visual/design elements of a channel or video helpful in drawing viewers and pleasing to the viewers as well?
This is something I think is less overt, but will resonate in people's minds somewhere. They'll come to Dawnforgedcast at one point, and they'll see a guy with scraggly, greasy hair in a hoodie. They'll see his bed in the back and his cat. He's dimly lighted. The camera angle is, okay, but it's the aspect is meager. And then I might say great things. I still have these series up on the channel. And I might say really good advice about how to build a campaign and how to get started in tabletop gaming. But if I can also do that, but have good lighting, have nice sound, when I have this, this thing is kind of relatively recent, my overlay here, but this is kind of part of it. Yeah, I'm not full up on the thing, but if you look at the Hangout right now, I'm taking up more space in my little box than these guys are with their full box, just because of the way the framing works and able to put that in there. So this is definitely not restrictive. This helps people. They come and they see, oh, it's Dawnforgedcast. Oh, it's a guy, hammering a dice. That must be, it's tabletop related. This must be professional, even if it's only kind of. Oh, he's got other stuff I can do. Oh, what are the champions of the Dawn? Oh, that's the patron account, that kind of thing. And so visuals are helpful. It might not be the main selling point. If I had great visuals and then was just awful as a presenter, or my information was bad, or both, that wouldn't be enough. But a lot of people get by. People make judgments just on how they look on the presentation. And so when you incorporate an intro and an outro to your video, those are very important for setting the tone and the theme. When your channel logo has a channel icon has a good logo, a good banner, one that's of decent quality, that well represents what your channel's about. When your thumbnails accurately depict the video that it has to do with, when it evokes an image of cool fantasy heroics, that is going to resonate. All these kind of little things add up. They help you organize. I like looking, I'm scrolling through my video list right now, and I look and I see which one did I put out today? The Shadow Step puzzle. And so I've got the puzzle, and then I've got Epic Encounters and the name of it right there. And I look at that, and when someone is scrolling through their YouTube page and looking at all the uploads that have happened, a good thumbnail is going to attract attention. And if it's specific, and if it's the name is well titled, and it's accurate. Now they have a system that where you can report videos for false advertising, like the name or the icon doesn't line up with what the video says. That's really great because it eliminates the idea of putting boobs and puppies on your thumbnail or some woman provocative, and then the video is not about anything. They did away with that, thankfully. But really, that it's a level of class. It's a level of a refinement or a sense of, I think, also a sense of confidence that you could go to a 5-star steak restaurant and say Ruth Chris or something, and then also go to Texas Roadhouse, and they could be exactly the same in taste and flavor and whatnot, but just by dressing yourself up, by changing the atmosphere, this one now can charge twice as much. I like Texas Roadhouse. I think it's awesome. I love their rolls. And I don't really care about going to some fancy place and tightening my shirt and paying 3 times as much. But that people do that because the perception is that this is a quality establishment. Everyone's wearing nice clothes, so therefore it must be nice, even if the food is exactly the same. So it's those little things that make you stand out. It's those little things that I have a sense of accomplishment when I'm looking back through it. You want something to say to the person clicking on it what it's about, and I see on my video how to improv for DMs and players. I got a little halfling bard in the icon, and he's playing an instrument, and it says how to improv. Like, oh, that I could be like a bard in a fantasy play. I could be in a tavern and be able to improv like that. Oh, the Blackwing Hearthstone thing. It's got the big dragon blowing. Oh, that's cool. Even if it's 52 minutes of me playing a card game, those little things can help. So it's definitely a strong selling point to have a good presentation, to have your backdrop be gaming stuff, you don't have to have an overlay like this exactly, but I can put pictures over in this corner or little text that enhance the video further. It's kind of like making a really good lesson plan that you do for, in the classroom. I'm going to have a variety of learners, and they're not all just going to be audio learners. They're going to want visuals too, or some are solely visuals, and they don't really pay attention to what I say so much as what is shown. So understanding the way people learn and the way people perceive things and how they take in information has really benefited me a lot. So that's very much a very important aspect of the production value and quality. Is it's not the main thing, but it will distinguish you from all the other, because there's many YouTube channels, and there's even in our more niche area of tabletop gaming, there's still lots of YouTube channels. And the ones that you see rising a little higher with subscriber numbers have a lot of those things that I mentioned before, but also there's a sense of quality about it in the way it looks. And so it's valuable. If you're really serious about it, you should take the time to do that as well.
Excellent. David, are we up to question 6 now? Is this your personal question finally? I know you've been kind of holding off for a while.
Yeah, this one was mine that I wrote down.
All right, go ahead.
It was about the Revolution Virtual Playspace. So, do you think something like Revolution Virtual Playspace could bring people over from video games, specifically RPGs, and help them in that aspect?
I need more experience with it to really say for certain. My initial reaction is no. Uh, it's like, just what I looked at it. The water looked really nice and the textures were pretty good. But I might say, again, not my, this is not a criticism or a formal critique. I don't have much experience with it. But it would be like playing a worse graphics game where you have no moves and you have no abilities and it's slow response time. And I don't think it would attract the people who really like video game kind of experience in RPGs. It's not going to say, oh, well, this is it. I'm done with video games. I'm going to play this. Now, there's, as David points out, there is a success of Minecraft in the graphical fidelity is a lot lower. But the appeal of Minecraft is also it's cheap. I don't know if it's free now or not, but it's more easily accessible. It's able to be played on a bigger variety of computers, so you don't need that high standard of graphics. It's a lot of creativity and flexibility. Legos, people are familiar with that. So games can definitely be successes in today's market and not have the highest optimal graphics. But I think it's going to need more than that to really persuade people who are playing like MMOs or something else. They might come and look and see, oh, this kind of looks like D&D Online. This kind of looks like the game I'm playing. But then they get into it and they ask, well, where's my action bar? Where's my stuff? This isn't Diablo. They're like, oh, well, that's on a sheet that you would have or a program, you have to look elsewhere. I don't think it's a strong selling point just by itself. The tabletop role playing is appealing because it's tabletop role playing, not because of the graphics, right? That's not why we play tabletop role playing games. We tell them because we want the freedom to tell the story and have the characters that we want. So this is not my official review because I'll have to be walked through it. I'll have to play some games in it to get the feel of it. But that's just my sort of gut reaction initially right now.
Alrighty. David, how many more questions do we have left on the comment side of it?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Better
left.
keep hammering them out.
All right. The next one comes from Ty. What are some of your favorite props to use as a DM or even a player?
I don't use a lot of physical things. I generally rely on my own sort of expressions and mannerisms to pull it off. I have spent a lot of time doing read-alouds and voice acting. So the accents, I think, in the way of performing the voice is also a strong selling point that sort of stands in for a prop. But something that I've really been enjoying doing lately, playing online, is having a portrait or a picture of the character that I'm currently playing, and I'll screen share that over me, and then they'll hear me doing the voice of this character or the scene that they're in, and they'll be able to see it and visualize the character. Now, I have no great ability to create portraits or draw characters. I'm more of a inanimate objects and kind of large-scale map kind of drawer, if anything. So I have to find them online, and it's hit or miss as far as how accurate it represents. But I like including those, including, for example, if they're going through the marketplace of some city, I'll have an image of the marketplace up. And I'm looking to do, this is a slight plug, but I won't plug them yet because I haven't actually given a good look. But there's something I'm looking into that was sent to me recently about audio, kind of background noises and audio tools. And I'm interested in incorporating those I've had some experience with that in the past, and the background music was great for the session, but bad for the recording. I kind of overwhelmed it. So I like using the visuals, and I don't really have a lot of physical props so much that I would incorporate. I use minis and figures, but I use them on a whiteboard, and so I'm not tied to the grid, and I find it actually works a lot better, more flexible to have the whiteboard, and then the movement space is your character's size. And so however many character steps that it makes, that's how many spaces you move. So that's kind of my props and the things I make use of to enhance the game beyond just myself.
I'm gonna kind of add on to the whole accent and voice thing. I have a difficult time with doing consistent accents. Like I can do a phrase here and there that'll sound good. But do you? And it seems I don't know if it comes all that easily to you, but you pull it off very, very well. And so I appreciate when I'm listening to the game sessions and the voices that you do is really awesome. Do you find that that does come easily to you to do those different voices, or do you have to actually spend time working at it? And do you have any advice for people that are looking to try to incorporate voices and accents into their game?
I can't tell you that there was any point that I remember really working hard to develop the accents. They've been around, I think, a little more recently when I started doing tabletop gaming and theater in high school. They both kind of happened at the same time. And I think that's where I started to develop it. Like I didn't have sort of take classes or anything like that, but I have done a lot of read alouds. I read a lot as a child and as a teenager, and so my experience in reading, actually some of the biggest videos on my channel are not entirely known to the RPG people. There's some audiobooks that I've recorded myself that have more views than all of my RPG stuff combined. It is actually a very strong thing that I'm interested in. I have a voice acting resume that's about 30 pages long of various projects I've been involved in, and it's something that I'm definitely also looking into as a sort of side career or parallel career, is doing voice acting. So I have again, can't say when it started or when I worked hard for it, but I think just doing it a lot is one of the main things that you need to work on. And I have made a video voices and accents tutorial, so I go in a little more in depth there. But it's generally what I kind of recommend is starting with your regular voice and then adjusting pitch and adjusting speed. Don't worry about accents, don't worry about anything else. Just kind of change slightly. You talk a little slower. You talk a little deeper and slower. You talk a little higher and fast, and higher and fast. And that's 3 different characters, and then if you see it sort of as an axis, you can have all sorts of stuff. So I would also, something I do sometimes is have a prompting phrase, and I might write down on my notes. If I prepare ahead of time an accent, then I'll write that down. But usually the important thing to remember is when I come up with an NPC and I decide their voice, to write that down for next time, because sometimes you can forget it. I do have a few that I fall back on, sort of a stable of ones that are easier to go to and fit the stereotype, kind of what we've seen in media and popular culture. So a nefarious, evil wizard kind of guy will have my British accent. And there can be the Lord Evil British accent, and then the more playfully sinister, which is what the Lord of Shadow is in my game for 11-year-olds at our school. And he'll be, I'm so glad you've all come this way. And it's got a kind of part to it. I think it's just a lot of experience of just doing it over and over again. It helps that I read aloud for about an hour a day, each day at school. Right now we're reading The Wizard of Oz and The Black Stallion, and the students also read The Black Stallion, but I read 25 minutes of that every day. And I really enjoy the idea of coming up with voices for them. So our Scarecrow, he talks like this, and it's just kind of got a little lispiness, but also the southern part. I'm Scarecrow, and I want a brain. And I didn't know if Tin Man. I just decided to go with it, and he's kind of New Yorker and a little bit of Bostonian kind of come together. I'm the Tin Workman, and I just really want a hot. He's kind of playing that out. And the Lion, you can get rough. The Lord of the Monkeys, he's the Cockney kind of thing. I'm the Lord of the Monkeys, the deep Cockney. We're here to summon you and take care of whatever you need. And they just come, and I just make the choice then and there. Same thing as in the game, unless I thought of it ahead of time. I'll have sort of prompters of ones that I haven't done very often, like for especially when I do a read aloud, Gandalf, and getting into all those voices. I did the Hobbit read aloud, and I'd have a phrase that would prompt that off. Gandalf is me. And then it's important not to try and copy Ian McKellen or anything. It's trying to make it your own for the most part, and don't worry about accuracy, because there's no Jamaica in our fantasy world, right? So if your voice sounds like this, and someone says, oh, that's Jamaicans don't say it like that, they say it like this. There's no Jamaica here, man. This is how my character, this is not Russian. The Russians, they don't do this. You have Russian. No, I have a, what are those guys called in Pathfinder? I have an accent from this guy in this region. And don't worry about accuracy. You're not mimicking it. Don't worry about being offensive. I have a few videos about the absurdity of political correctness, that somehow using a voice is offensive, right? No, it's absurd. We don't need to get into all that here. But yeah, definitely practice a lot. Something I do is when I hear a voice, especially an accent I'm not very good at, I will, like watching a movie or a show, I'll sometimes repeat the line that they just said and try and do it the way they did it to add kind of an inflection. But really, just start with pitch and speed, and you'll get all sorts of characters coming from there. And then if you manage to get an accent down, then you can use that accent in pitches and speeds. And then take Saturday morning, cartoons, even the overemphasized, anime thing, the old samurai voice, the really kind of, I am not here to watch over you. I am here to train you and copy what you hear and then build on it, right? So that'd just a little bit, and I have more tutorials elsewhere for that. But just start somewhere and start doing it, and you're already playing a game where you roll dice and cast lightning bolts and talk to goblins. You're not going to look more silly if you put on a voice too. You're already there. You've already jumped in. You're already in the deep end. Just go for it, man. Just go for it.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you. All right, David. We're going to keep with your viewer questions. Go ahead.
And by the way, that's definitely how I do my samurai voice currently, except I'll use actual Japanese characters and stuff and when I speak. That was really good. Question number 8 comes from Cody. How do you feel about unconventional settings and unique tropes in fantasy settings? So, unconventional settings and unique tropes in fantasy settings. How do you feel about them?
They're fine. I use them where I have them and if it's appropriate. The main sort of guiding principle for me is, what do my players want? This is a danger that a lot of game masters fall into, is they'll spend this time away from players without player consulting and come up with this thing they think is really, really cool. Like, oh, I want to play a game where aliens have crash landed and they've had a big influence on this gnomish culture, and now the gnomes all use laser guns. But also there's a thing where they've got this other thing incorporated, this kind of an Egyptian city, and that's there, but that also has different kind of aliens. And then now the players are involved in a war between these two different tribes that have been influenced by alien technology. Fine, cool idea. And then you sit down with your players and they all say, oh, I really want to play a pirate game. Yeah, me too, me too. I want to go sail the seven seas and plunder different stuff and have Yar in my voice. You're like, no, we're going to play this alien technology influencing game. And so those ideas are great and fine. And I've used them. There's a one-shot game on the channel of Pathfinder and aliens where I had them encounter aliens coming down. There's been others where I've incorporated time travel, and I've had my players go into the future and even with their fantasy characters and deal with those things. And they're good in their places. It really depends on the group and if it feels kind of as a nice, kind of like a episode of a TV show. That the whole series isn't like that, but we can have one episode that's the cool episode that they did that thing in. The flashback episode, or the Community does a really good job of this, of having all the different kind of shticky episodes. But I wouldn't say there does reach a point when, and I've kind of advised people about this. They ask me, I want to play. I've got how can I make steampunk work in Pathfinder? How can I make a Star Wars game using the Pathfinder system? And at some point, eventually, I have to point them to, well, Pathfinder is not designed with that in mind. It has a fantasy setting in mind and fantasy mechanics. And you might really want to because you don't have another system. But if you really want some good steampunk, pick up a system that's specifically for that. Iron Kingdoms here is really great because it's designed and intended for that. The mechanics are built around that. So include them sparingly, and make sure people are wanting that in their campaign, and is not really going beyond what the system can handle. At that point, just switch to another system.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm just giving people a heads up. We got about another 10 to 15 minutes or so. So I just want to try to get through all the viewer questions if we can, just to try to get those finished up. So, David, I'm just going to give you the floor again, passing it off.
All right, so I'm going to ask him a little bit out of order for this one. This one comes from Cricket. How do you feel about sex or sexuality that may occur during a game? Interesting question.
You mean the characters, right?
Yes. That'll definitely be a different tabletop game that I have yet to see.
Guys, everyone, strip D&D. That sounds terrifying, especially given the makeup of most gaming groups, right? It's generally something that if I include it at all, it is a fade to black and it happens kind of a thing. To me, it's not really going to add a lot to the game to include it, especially when it's a group game again. So unless you're all going to an orgy, if it's just you and one character in the game master, and you're playing this character that has this thing for the barmaid, and I want to seduce the barmaid. Okay, if there's any girls there, I want to do them. So you and the game master now role playing. All right, so I want to lean in and sort of caress her hair and look her deep in the eyes. And there's 4 other people like sitting right next to you who are all wanting to play their characters and not just sit there and watch you as a character flirt and try and get it on with your words with this other guy or this game master who's also playing a character. It doesn't really have a great place for me because it takes away from the group sense of things. It's the same with a lot of things that are just kind of solo acts that are gonna me and my character getting what they want, and it takes away from that, and it can be awkward. It can be, I'm sure there are some groups that are really into it, but me not so much. Romance and that kind of stuff can be included and can be a powerful motivating factor, but I generally keep it not on screen. It's the next morning. All right, I head up to the princess's room. All right. Well, the next morning, everyone comes down to the. That's kind of the extent of how I would play it up, and for those reasons.
I think, and just to add a little bit, I think that also allows people to, if they want to have that sort of idea of what is going on, let them play that out in their head. They don't have to involve those other people around them. It's their fantasy. Let that be their fantasy. Don't have to actually show it to other people. That kind of thing.
There's a lot that should be role played in your head that you think is really cool about your character that doesn't need to be shared with others. I mean, your backstory, most of that, you can have your character growing and developing, and just for you. You don't have to get everyone else to shut up and listen to my 20-page backstory because I wrote it and I think it's important for my character. It should be when you're at the table, it should be because you have the other people there and you want to work with them. If you want to develop your character specifically, it should be done separately or just in your own minds. Exactly right.
I want to
Excellent.
chime in for just a moment on that one.
Go ahead.
About as far as I take it with regards to, the erotic role playing or the intimate role playing, I guess, is I find it an interesting possibility as the DM for it to occur. I have them roll a charisma check, and I don't do any of the actual acting out part of it because obviously, like you suggested before, the makeup of most play groups is the majority of males, and the DM is generally a male. Even if it weren't, though, I still don't think I would, do that. But anyhow, I like to incorporate the results of those scenes happening. For example, having a child or not having a child, that kind of thing, and tie that into the story, especially in a long-running campaign where the players come back, a couple of years later, or things fast forward a few months. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, we've definitely had some experiences with family lineages in our home campaign, so it makes it, to me, it connects more with the player because then your characters are connected that way, and it can add a little bit of extra depth to it. So I appreciate that kind of thing. Because you get a history kind of built in with your play group, which is kind of cool. All right, David. I think we got time for maybe one or two more, but let's just go ahead and get one more going. Oh, David is typing.
All right,
Go
so
ahead.
the next one comes from Cosmic. What are some house rules you have used or always use for your games, whether it's because you disagree with a mechanic or just because it adds more to the game?
Yes, I do have some. Some of them are minor, but I will always, well, I'm up to this point, you'll have max hit points through level 3. You'll also have a sort of cushion, especially the first 2 or 3 sessions, to remake and change your character, different parts of it, as you play the character and figure them out more, to swap in feats and skills and change their class and those kind of things. I definitely am okay with that. The hit points are max, and I definitely have homebrewed in certain systems like Pathfinder, you have 2 skill points that you can spend on background skills. So like craft or profession or knowledge skill to enhance your character's sort of role play elements. I'm playing a fighter and he's got knowledge arcana. That's kind of interesting. Why does he have that? That adds sort of aspects to it. I don't do the critical confirmation. It's just a crit if it rolls the 20. It's a crit if it rolls in the range. Sometimes I do it, but again, I'm not so heavy on the system fidelity, right? I like the cushion time to talk to my gaming group, and it depends, but usually there'll be consequences for you losing a fight, but they won't be you all dying. They'll be you not getting a reward, you not getting to rescue that person in time, those kind of things. So players can expect that their characters will not be killed unless they do something really, really dumb. For the first couple levels, that's kind of my home table rule, to give people time to care about their characters, and then I can kill them. Because if you just kill them and they don't care about their character, then it's just, okay, I'll just make another one. But if you kill a character that is, feeling and heart invested to it, oh, that's fantastic that you're able to build that up. So I have a actual PDF of some other homebrew rules that I've made. I make a lot of homemade items, custom items. I like including spell use on items or skill increases, like an Axe of Intimidation gives you +4 to intimidate skills, or those kind of things. Lots and lots and lots of custom items. I definitely allow you to customize your spells. So if you want a magic missile that doesn't do force damage but does frost damage, and instead of looking like little pink balls, it's screaming skulls, totally fine. I like you to flavor your character and customize it, so you can tweak whatever the wording says on the description of the spells. Totally fine with that too. So it's really my homebrew is a lot of flexibility and customization is kind of where I focus on that. I'm going to try and keep my answers a little bit more brief so we can get a few more questions in.
I believe we just have the one more question from the audience, though. So actually, if we can just finish that one up, if you're okay with that, and just kind of wrap it up and send people home to bed.
Sure.
Yeah. This one comes from Nate and Dan. It's a two-parter. First part is dark or light beer. Second part is ale, lager, porters, or malts. I'll save that one for last just because of its, well, composition, I guess.
I'll do something that is, I've been told is sacrilegious to someone who is supposed to be a man. I do not drink beer. I do not like alcohol. No, I like alcohol. I don't like beers at all. I don't like the carbonation. And I worked at Old Chicago for 2 years. I was a bartender, so I know all about them, and I've tasted them all so that I could make recommendations and whatnot. But I do not enjoy the bitterness, the tardiness, the burning sensation. If I'm going to drink alcohol, it's going to be masked. Same thing about eating eggs. They can't taste like eggs. The alcohol can't taste like alcohol. So not really. I will tolerate a woodchuck hard apple cider from time to time. Yes. But I'm definitely not a alcohol connoisseur, for sure.
Actually, I have a quick follow-up to that. It was when we started our conversation questions. This was something I had written down but really haven't fully asked yet. So obviously, just personal preference as far as alcohol and that kind of thing is great. But what about at the table? What is your opinion on either drinking and/or vulgarity, swearing, that kind of thing? Where does that? Do you draw the line at a certain point, or what's your opinion on those sorts of things?
You'll find in my videos there's a couple that are specifically like booze and Munchkin booze in Game of Thrones. It definitely changes the whole tempo and the whole atmosphere when people are getting to the buzzed and beyond points. It would depend on the people specifically. If someone's has one beer and they like the taste and it's a little relaxing, that doesn't bother me. If they're there like tossing back shots of Jaeger, then either we all better be doing it or no. The swearing is something that I've really gotten away from. I don't do it in my personal life. It just doesn't come to mind. I had a real strong disrespect for it when I was younger and really made an emphasis on speaking. And if I want to come up with an insult or do an expression of emotion, it'll be a little more elegant, a little more elaborate than just those things. I'm not opposed to saying words, especially if it's in character or in the moment. I said a word in this last session as a joke. The context is fantastic. It was a name. It worked. We encountered a myconoid or myconid, and someone said, "What should we name it?" And someone else said, "Oh, it looked kind of like a shiitake mushroom. Oh, it's really little." And so I came up with the name, my dwarf barbarian, kind of crude. He came up with the name. That's probably the first time you'd hear me say a curse word on any of my videos. Because it's just, to me, it's lower. We can say better things. We can say what we mean a little more elaborately. The initial seasons of Monday Night Gaming had some of the other players were a little more crude and crass, and so I didn't appreciate that too much, and so I didn't do it. And now, if I encounter players who are really coarse in my game and invite them, and they're playing that, I will talk to them afterwards and tell them that it's not really appropriate for my setting and my table, and I think it distracts. Thankfully, the players I play with, for the most part, I haven't had to say that. In my home game, we're not like that either. So I think it generally just in life detracts from things, but there are moments when it is appropriate and poignant to use. But those are rare and far between.
Absolutely. Well, this has been amazing and most excellent, and I hate to actually cut us all off at this point, but I think at some point we just gotta, finish it up and say goodnight and all that kind of stuff. So, Brennan, I'm gonna pass this off to you. I know you've been sitting there patiently and soaking it all in. I just wanna have you take the stage for just a minute and say what you gotta say.
Sure. When we do these interviews, I'll probably not say too much during them as we interview people, not out of disrespect to our person that we're interviewing, more so that I want to make sure that everything's running smoothly. I am handling more of the technical side of things, as that's kind of my background. I think Joe's great at interviewing, so I'll jump in and interject things here and there as I feel necessary. But I want to thank you, first of all, Andrew, for coming on the call tonight. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you to our editor, David, for being here and taking questions from the chat, as well as keeping it connected and working on other things behind the scenes for us. So we appreciate that, David. There you are. And of course, Joe, thank you for basically being the host this evening and grilling, for lack of a better term. And then thank you, of course, to all the viewers, on Twitch, on YouTube. Not sure how many people tuned in that aren't regular viewers of ours. We want to thank you for stopping by, and thank you for joining the conversation tonight. And I'll pass over to Andrew. Anything that he wants to say or shout out, give him the moment to do that.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I've enjoyed both of the times that we've sat down to chat together. I always enjoy talking about tabletop gaming and doing it with people of I don't like talking with like-minded people. I like talking with similar-minded people so that there's enough of a differing viewpoint and different opinion that I can grow a little bit. And this has been good for that, to reflect also and have a sort of sounding board back and forth. And this was a little less back and forth, but our first one was. And I'm very excited to see how your channel grows and to see your effort and diligence in putting towards that. I definitely admire passion and respect hard work and quality presentations, quality kind of in both the visual. I don't really care so much about the visual, but the quality and sort of substance. That's very important. The inclusiveness is very important too. So I don't have too much to shout out. If you're watching this, then you probably already are aware that's what the website is and the YouTube channel. But let me sort of offer my final sort of say of, let's really try to sell this hobby as the amazing thing it is. If we see some people, having a negative attitude towards it, or putting people down, calling themselves nerdy, or that's just lame or whatnot, let's really promote the spirit of community and working together, cooperative gaming. That's kind of what I would leave here with, is together we succeed, together we have the most fun. And so get involved. Don't be afraid of making your own videos and putting them out there and asking questions, participating with others. If not in the chat, then in the actual video, then in the comments. send messages, get people involved, and really let that passion for the hobby show forth, and people will be attracted to that. They'll want to know about it. You'll feel great about it, and don't put any barriers on. Don't feel any shame about this amazing thing. Storytelling is as old as mankind, and we're doing that right here with some really great elements to it, some guidelines, and it's the funnest thing that I've come across. The most sort of, I get, other than my relationship with my wife and our child, the relationships that I have with my characters and the other players and the people who play them is extremely rewarding and very satisfying. So let's keep doing that. Head to visit Dawnforgedcast, visit Dice&Decks, visit all the other good channels that are out there if you have the time, and learn from not just the people who say the things you like. Learn from those who have a different point of view. You can grow your gaming. You don't even have to use what they say necessarily, but you're going to get a player who is probably thinking a little differently than you. So reach out, community. Happy gaming.
Thanks, Andrew. David, we'll go to you next. Is there anything you want to say or shout out to?
Yeah, I would just like to thank Andrew for stopping by, and it was so great to actually talk with you and everything, and everyone for the questions. Those were greatly appreciated, and yeah, that's all I have to say.
Joe?
Same thing for me, Andrew. It's been a great pleasure getting to know you, getting to ask you questions, throwing you on the grill. All this stuff is just awesome. And again, in my personal experience, like I said, you all the stuff that you had done and all the stuff you put online really has helped to teach me how to play better. Has really, opened my mind as far as the things that I can do as a player at the role playing and at the tabletop. And I just want to appreciate everything that you've done for the community, everything that you've offered out from yourself and all the time and effort that you put into it. It's made things that I've experienced that much better because of it. And again, to the community that we've had tonight, to all the people, all the people's input and questions, just having that conversation. I have in my mind, if you're not doing something, just do anything. If it's tabletop gaming, if it's a hobby you enjoy, find something that you enjoy. Make the world a better place because you enjoy doing something. And if we can offer that in our own way to people, find an avenue for them to do something, I think that's a great service that we can offer to people. So that's what we're trying to do, and just get that conversation, get the enjoyment of the things that we like, and share that with everybody. So thanks, everybody.
And then just one last thing. Thank you guys all for watching tonight. We're going to be doing a after call hangout for anyone who wants to drop in there. I'll post that in the Facebook group and also in the local haunts. If you're not familiar with our group, for those of you who might be watching from other sources, it's just on Facebook, and Dice&Decks is the name of the group with the ampersand symbol. And yeah, this concludes the interview, and thank you so much for watching. Dice&Decks signing off.